Okay, we're gonna be coming back here for game 3. Just figure this out. So we have SKT returning to the red side and KT returning to the blue side. And KT's 2-0, so KT's finishing strong, but SKT, famous, they still look strong. SKT's play did not falter in the last 2 games. It was very consistent. And I understand that it was like not great, but it was consistent. So I don't think that anybody on SKT is tilted. Because if anybody was tilted, I would be able to identify it. Or at least I would be able to identify it from any kind of plays that they make, rather than trying to identify it from, say, them missing more CS than normal, because I don't know these players like people who watch all of the LCK games this split. So those who have been watching all of the LCK games this split may have realized, oh, he's played this matchup before. He has less CS than he normally has. There's something wrong, but I don't see that yet. Sorry. All right. So back on the grind. KT back on blue side. Go ahead and ban the Cassia. They don't like seeing that pick in the game. SKT responds with Shen. Now I would hope that SKT actually ends up banning the Zac this game, as in the first game they did not ban Zac. There's another Lucian ban targeted at Faker. And there's the Galio ban. Galio being really strong. But remember, power picks don't win games. Good team comps and good plays win games. KT taking a second on their 3rd ban. KT actually bans the Zac. This is really interesting to me because I find it unnecessary from them to ban the Zac, because they were successful in game. Actually, you know what? So I have a theory. There's definitely a theory. They did not ban Gragas this draft, whereas the last draft on the first draft, they banned Gragas. And when they banned Gragas, they made it so that if SKT didn't ban Zac, that KT could grab Zac, and Gragas was no longer a response to Zac. But in this game, I think they're assuming that SKT does not want to ban Zac, but SKT is also not going to, they're not going to ban Gragas, and if they ban Gragas here, and SKT, they could have banned Gragas here, and SKT would be forced to ban Zac, because like they were successful in game 1. They were successful with the Zac in game 1. So I don't see. Maybe they have something up their sleeve, like pocket picks that they want to bring out, and they maybe want to cheese to try and make sure that they secure this series 3-0. So what did SKT do? They banned the Kalista. KT had been prioritizing Kalista very heavily, so I think banning the Kalista was a good idea. Elise is on the table. Elise, strong early game jungler. Smeb goes ahead and picks that up for score. And I want to say something. I know that I don't talk a lot about what else they could have picked, because I know that these coaches are smart enough to understand that they're probably picking what they're picking for a reason in the first few rotations. Because this is the easiest. You usually have a plan for the first 3 picks and bans. Whereas the last ones are kind of reserved for counter picks, or especially the red side last pick is usually reserved for a counter pick. I don't disrespect any picks that they prioritize in the first phase. So SKT didn't ban Rakan this game, and they end up picking Tristana Rakan in the first rotation. So they have their bottom lane. And Rakan is super strong. SKT's been prioritizing it as a ban because of how strong it is. And they pick up the Tristana too. So they're looking to win bottom and get and have pressure on that first blood tower again. KT look like they're going to respond with Thresh. I respect that. Thresh can flay the Rakan, and Thresh just overall is really good. Wait, what the fuck? Faker's 8-1 with Lucian? That's fucking cancer. They go ahead and they pick the LeBlanc. This is really interesting to me. Because I feel like Faker wouldn't mind playing Kassadin again, because his Kassadin was not the reason that SKT lost game 1. They go ahead and they grab the Gragas because it's open and it's one of the strongest junglers on the table. So now they have a strong jungle and they have a good bot lane. And Gragas is there for, he also can be flex top. It's not very popular, but it is an option that KT should keep in mind. They ban the Caitlyn because Caitlyn can win the bottom lane. Caitlyn would be the pick to pick if KT wanted to respond with a winning bottom lane. So KT go ahead and ban the Orianna to keep it away from Faker, that S tier mid laner. SKT actually banned Renekton, and KT follow up with Cho'Gath. So my idea for SKT right now is that they need to draft a tank top, and they need to draft a ranged carry mid laner. Or they could try running the Kassadin again and run a bruiser top, kind of like Kled. So this is the Corki coming out. So what this would pair up with the Tristana is super high turret pressure. Because Corki's gonna get Triforce, and with that Triforce and his level 6, he's gonna be great at sieging, and with the Gragas, they're gonna be great at sieging too, and Rakan's good at diving as well. KT respond with the Sivir. So Sivir is actually really strong because she's such a late game high damage carry. But what's also unique to Sivir is that she has a very hardy laning phase. And what I mean by hardy is that she's kind of hard to abuse, and she likes to push in a lot. She generally CS is fine. She's not very afraid of anyone in the bottom lane because of her spell shield. Holding their last pick, going to be the Jarvan, and that's going to be a Jarvan top lane. So SKT have to pick in the Jarvan top lane. There's a couple picks on the table. The Maokai, that might be it. Because I mean, yep, okay, that's it. I don't need to explain anything else then. Um, so let's look at this by lane basis. Let's go ahead and do this again. So in the top lane, J4 wins. And J4 wins until Mao becomes unkillable. Because Maokai eventually gets to a point where he does become pretty unkillable. And he does have lane sustain. In the mid lane, Pawn wins on LeBlanc. LeBlanc wins early. But Corki actually ends up outscaling this. So Corki outscale. And that's about when Corki hits Triforce, is when he can actually start to duel the LeBlanc. And even when he has Fade Sheen, the LeBlanc doesn't exactly have full lane dominance. And as for the bottom lane, let's let them switch all their picks so that we can look at the bottom lane. As for the bottom lane, they're gonna push in, but they're also gonna push, and it seems like another skill matchup to me. You see, it's very difficult for me to say a lot about who's going to win the bottom lane, because the bottom lane is probably the lane that I have the least amount of knowledge on. What I do know is that Rakan and Thresh, both being very good playmaker supports, gives both of these lanes opportunities for to be able to outplay the enemy, which is why I'm very going to stick with my statement of it's going to be some form of skill matchup. Now, as for the junglers, Score is going to try put pressure in mid lane because you want to get that LeBlanc head. Score can also put pressure in top lane. Score would not be so apt to put pressure in bottom lane because Sivir isn't exactly the highest damage ADC or the highest snowballing ADC, and Rakan Tristana is very hard to gank because they both have escapes. And after that goes on, then KT has a very good 1-3-1. So they have a 1-3-1. So again, this is another sense where they're going to have Baron pressure. I need a darker color. Baron pressure. But the thing is, they don't have a primary tank for Baron. And I use that word a lot, primary tank, or those words. I use that set of words a lot to note whether or not someone is going to be incredibly tanky, or if they're really going to be a bruiser, or if due to the fact that they're in the support role, they can't be a primary tank just because they have to itemize differently, which is why Thresh is generally not a primary tank. Even though he does get kind of tanky, I never note him as that. Other champions are able to fill that role, such as Braum and Alistar, due to the fact that Braum's shield is so good, and Alistar's ultimate allows him to be a primary tank. On the side of SKT, they have Maokai and Gragas, who are both primary tanks. Gragas can build a little bit of damage early, which means he would not be a primary tank until later in the game, around 3 items. And Rakan's just a support who's going to build support items as well, so he's not going to be a primary tank either. So we see, we're going to see a Bruiser Elise, a Bruiser Jarvan. LeBlanc's not really an assassin anymore, but she is a side lane duelist, so a duelist and a teamfight ADC. And from SKT, we see Siege, 2 primary tanks, 2 primary damage dealers. So as far as 5v5, SKT wins. And another thing that's really interesting that is valid here is that in the mid game, SKT can match the 1-3-1. Because Tristana, Rakan, Gragas can match Sivir, Thresh, Elise, and because they have Gragas, they have disengage. So they're able to match that in the mid lane, so to say. And Faker, once he has Triforce, is able to match the LeBlanc. So Corki's able to match LeBlanc. And then Antara, after he gets about 1.5 items, gets to this point where he is incredibly difficult to kill. So if they can make it to about the 15 to 20 minute mark, I see SKT winning. But if LeBlanc gets fed and Jarvan gets fed, which will be heavily reliant on how Score plays this Elise, the 1-3-1 will be successful and be able to force enough pressure to force more leads and more towers, and it's going to be too much for SKT to deal with, assuming that these two are ahead. But those two have to be ahead in the early game so that the mid game can be successful. So let's go ahead and jump right into game. Had lots of VOD reviews today, so we're very, very busy. We see that both Jarvan and LeBlanc started Corrupting Potion. I do like that a lot, especially on the LeBlanc, so she has a lot more pressure on Corki in the early game. And then one thing that you see as an advantage for KT is that Faker doesn't have Teleport, he has Cleanse, which is very important for him because he wants to either cleanse the Elise Cocoon or the Ethereal Chain or even the Thresh Hook. He's gonna be able to cleanse all of those whenever necessary for him. Smeb trying to get level 1 damage. Elise starting red buff and Gragas starting blue buff. Elise going to be moving to Race, Gragas moving to Wolves. And it looks like KT have vision on Gragas's red buff. So they're going to know when Blank goes to take that. And oh, Blank's playing. Peanut's not playing. Peanut's gone. They took Peanut out. So that could change a lot because Blank has a little bit of a different play style than Peanut, and I think that because he's a little bit more reserved, then maybe they're going to be able to be more reactive, and then be able to make it to the mid game. Where Corki will pop off. So Blank is going to play a little bit less aggressive than you would normally see Peanut play. Peanut is a very high-pressure jungler. And maybe that was a executive decision because Score can just out-pressure Peanut in the early. So you see that Deft went ahead and he took the red plant away from Blank. Not that Blank is probably particularly interested in using it. Blank, by the way, I didn't talk about which lanes Blank can gank, but Blank is probably just going to be focusing on counter ganking. And here's actually Blank's going to be sitting on the sideline. Sees Score has moved into the enemy jungle here. Going to be jumped on by Blank. Going to repel the Maokai W. Lots of damage going to be coming out on Antara, but Score is really low. Going to take a lot of damage, and Blank is going to come out with the Flash E. And that's going to be first blood for Blank. Very smart playstyle by Blank, and I was definitely, I mean, that's exactly what they want. They want that counter gank. They want to deny Elise the pressure. And now that Elise doesn't have both her buffs, she's going to have a lot of trouble, especially the red buff. She's going to have a lot of trouble putting a lot of pressure in lanes. Oh, jeez. Deft is missing a couple CS there. I don't know how he messed up that CS. I don't know if he used his Q or his W, but he missed like 3 CS into that tower. That was very sad. So Gragas is not going to be building damage early, and that's something that I'd expect from Blank. He's just going to be going straight for Cinderhulk. So Blank moving into the bottom side river, really trying to keep eyes on Score. Sees that Score went ahead and got Scuttle Crab, tells bottom lane, hey, Score's in the bottom side, make sure that you be aware. And Pawn's going to be taking an early back, but remember Pawn has teleport. So Faker's going to try and push in here as fast as he can, so that he can get a free back. But he's going to miss a couple minions because of that. Or he misses just the cannon, but that's really sad because that's 50 gold that he could have had. And 50 gold plus the 8 seconds that you're recalling give you enough gold for a pink ward. Hold on, my pen's all messed up. Whoa, I'm missing something. Hold on. My pen is... it might have just died. Yeah, I think my pen just died, so we're gonna have to do this VOD review without my pen. But that's all right. That'll limit my coaching ability for a coaching session, I promise, tomorrow. As I like to make my videos nice and all drawn over. So let's figure out what happens here. Okay, so Faker was originally going for a back, and remember Faker has not backed. And Blank is just coming up so that Faker can see us, and if Faker's able to see us, then he's able to back safely. So Score comes into the lane, and Pawn actually goes to engage. Pawn takes a lot of damage. Faker's going to be trying to get the kill there, but he knows... Ooh, actually, he had enough mana for his big one. So it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade in the mid lane, and it's actually going to be benefiting Faker. Even though Elise has gotten a kill, and Elise is probably going to be building damage, we know that that having that gold on Faker is going to allow Faker to have the edge in lane. Which is going to be really beneficial to him because he's trying to get to that mid-game power spike as fast as possible. And see how he's actually CSing. He's going to be at an EXP lead as well because LeBlanc had just teleported back to lane, and now Faker's getting a free back because he's going to be able to get back to lane, and he might miss 1 to 2 CS. So it's not going to be that bad for him. And he actually picks up Hex Drinker, which is really smart. Looks like we're seeing a replay of the top lane. Antara has to flash out. And here's back in the mid lane. Pawn engaging, but gets E'd by Blank. And look at this by Faker. Wow, hold on. I want to see that again. So he got the ult auto, and he flashes, starts his auto animation immediately. Actually, no, wait. I understand what happened. He started his ult and flashed as he did it. So he actually ulted from this location, but he made sure that he casted it here. So the cast time was before he flashed. So Pawn would not be ready. And then he got the auto off and that gave him enough damage for the kill. Yeah, he wanted to make sure that the kill was instant because he didn't want Pawn to flash away. Because Pawn could have flashed that, but Pawn would have had to have lightning reaction speed. Pawn engaging on Faker, getting nice free damage. Faker trying to trade back, but Corki's just not so great at trading with LeBlanc until he gets Triforce. Blank being really aggressive. I don't know what he was doing here. This is not good for Faker. Even Mata has rotated up. Faker dodges the hook, the flay comes out, the ult comes out from Smeb. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened here. Let's look at what was Smeb thinking. Okay, so Faker is currently low. Right? Faker's low. And LeBlanc is full HP. But he engages onto Elise. And here's why he engages onto Elise. He does not engage onto Elise because he wants to engage a 2v2 with Faker. That is not what he wants. What he wants is Maokai to be roaming down right now. So he's actually engaging for a 3v2. The problem is that Thresh has started, Thresh had already started roaming up. And Sivir's safe in lane because Sivir had been pushing the lane. So the KT has actually had better rotations for this play, and SKT was just not able to respond to those rotations because KT knows that they have to play the early game or they'll lose. Early game or bust. And I'm sorry that my handwriting's horrible now, but I'm using a mouse and I am very used to my tablet. Oh, I wanted to note that Faker actually bought Hexdrinker first, not for just the LeBlanc, but because LeBlanc and Elise are going to be pressuring him a lot. He wants to make sure that he can get to Triforce without dying. My God, writing with that is so annoying. Damn, it's a shame my pen died. It's a shame I don't have a battery for my pen. So small CS leads for SKT, but look at this CS lead in top lane. It's actually about 30 minions. Or it's going to be a little bit less than that because Maokai is intercepting a wave, but it's still going to be close to that 30 CS, and that is just huge. Because remember what I said, that the win condition of KT is to have LeBlanc and Jarvan strong enough in the mid game to deny deny the Corki and to be strong enough to 1v1 the Maokai before Maokai becomes unkillable. And Jarvan's actually at a pretty good power spike right now. He's got the Phage Tiamat. That's an amazing combo that I've talked about in previous videos. Bang and Wolf really trying to push in onto Deft. Small CS lead in the bottom lane that they want to keep. Sivir is amazing late game, just like Tristana, but Sivir is a little bit better for the team fight itself, but Tristana's better for that for pushing towers. But Sivir is really good at pushing waves, and she has really strong wave clear. And actually, I think that's what KT was thinking when they drafted Sivir, that if they had enough wave clear, they could deny the siege. Because at a point in the mid game, Sivir will reach a point where she can safely wave clear using just her W on the melee minions and then her Q. Damn, that's a lot of damage going out into Antara. Antara is going to have to back here. No, he's just popping his corrupting potion. It looks like he's just going to be sitting under tower, but Elise could really dive him here, and KT's actually moving up for it. But Blank also thinks that too. You might see a couple people move up. Rakan has moved to the top side of the map. Faker going to a hard engage on a pawn here. Pawn's going to get taken away by the lantern. But as you can see now that Corki has Phage, he starts to be able to duel this LeBlanc. And he can't outburst her, but he can certainly do quite a bit of damage. Very well played by Antara. So Antara sees that they're not even trying to come behind him. Oh my god, my mouse. It was like frozen. They're not even trying to come behind him. So as soon as he sees Elise in vision, he's like, all right, I need to fix this. He cues the wave, he pops the ult, he moves back to try and dodge the cocoon that he was expecting to come out, and then engages on a Jarvan and gets his passive. So really trying to deny the dive. Very, very well played by Antara. I'm surprised that LeBlanc isn't roaming more. Because like LeBlanc they could have if they were gonna dive top, they could have sent LeBlanc up there too. They could have been more aggressive, and they can continue to be more aggressive because they really need to play this early game, or else they're just not going to do anything. Why is my mouse literally breaking? I apologize for the actual technical difficulties, not even like bullshit. What the hell is going on? Okay. Ooh, engaged by Wolf on Namada. Lots of damage going out. The Buster Shot comes out too, but not enough damage. The Buster Shot might have been a little early there. Yeah, the Buster Shot came in right when Thresh procced Courage of the Colossus, so the Courage actually saved him. And even though, if you actually look closely, I don't think the Courage shield was large enough to actually save him. Yeah, no, the Courage shield was not very big. He wasn't going to die anyway, so the Buster Shot was definitely early if Bang wanted to get that kill. Because they could have kept dueling that. And if Blank was actually on his way down, so they should not have been afraid to keep dueling that. The only thing that they were afraid of is the fact that Sivir can naturally push the CS wave. And I know Tristana naturally pushes with E, but Sivir pushes much more quickly. So you're going to see a lot more pressure coming out from that, and they don't want to fight in the minion wave because they don't want to take a lot of extra damage. So you're going to see the Hextech Gunblade coming out from LeBlanc, so she's going to be pretty strong soon. Jarvan just finished Black Cleaver, but I think this is a really greedy buy from Jarvan because he doesn't have boots yet, and he kind of needs boots so that he can get close enough to engage. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking there. Any other key buys? Corki now is Sheen and Phage. So Corki can now 100% duel LeBlanc. That is a fact. Well, actually, you know what? That might be a little skewed. Because LeBlanc just finished her first power spike, and this is before Corki hits his first power spike. But why I think Corki can win this fight 100% is because he has the Hex Drinker shield. So if Hex is on cooldown, Corki loses. But if it's not on cooldown, then Corki wins. Blank is going to be starting the Wind Dragon here, and he's in vision of KT. Corki's going to be moving down. Now, they're doing this without Corki package. I don't know when they used Corki package because I don't remember them using it. And I don't have sound turned on, so I don't know if he used it, but it just seems really odd to me. So SKT sees Smeb teleport in, so they do a full disengage. Wolf's gonna have to flash. Blank flashes. Lots of damage going out onto Smeb. Faker gonna try to secure that kill, but he can't. Pawn actually gonna pull up a double kill for himself, and nothing's gonna come out for KT. But remember, they're fighting for a Wind Dragon here, so it's not. SKT could have made this cleaner. First of all, oh wait, Faker's low mana? Hold on. Let's look at the original conditions, because the initial conditions are how we should really identify all of these fights. We can't really look at parts of them. We have to look at the initial conditions, because then we understand who is supposed to win. So we know that Corki's half mana, but that's probably enough for a team fight. So, and you know that because he's able to spam, and he has a little extra mana from Sheen. Bang is currently sitting on a lot of crit chance. He has 20% crit chance, a BF sword and boots, and Deft is actually just sitting on the BF sword and boots. So technically Bang is stronger right now because 1 every 5 times he's supposed to crit, meaning his overall DPS will be much higher. On the other side, Elise has a damage item and Gragas has a defensive item. So Gragas is not really apt for dueling. So him starting the dragon is a little bit weird. Secondly, the Corki package. I mentioned the Corki package a second ago, but the Corki package is really strong for fighting these neutral objectives. And I think that if SKT was going to go for Wind Dragon, there's no reason why they shouldn't wait for the Corki package. And if they were going to play around Corki in the first place, Corki is only about 1,200 gold from Trinity. So why start this now? Why now? And if you're going to do this now, and you know for a fact, this is because I can guarantee you that these players can count. Smeb's teleport is off cooldown, and Antara's teleport is off cooldown. So if SKT was going to go for this dragon, they have to understand the fact that Smeb is going to TP, and if Smeb's going to TP, if they're going to fight the fight, then Antara has to TP. But they realize, we don't think we can win this fight because they've already made the mistake. Because the mistake has already happened. Right? This is really important to understand. because this isn't some kind of microplay error where, oh, Wolf should have like positioned differently, or Blank should have dodged that at the real chain. No, that's bullshit. That's not how this is supposed to happen. If SKT is going to go for the dragon, they need certain things. They need a power spike on the main damage dealer, aka Corki Trinity Force, Corki's package, because that is unique to that champion. They also need to make sure that Antara's ult is not even on cooldown. Hold on. Antara's ult is not on cooldown. Everything is wrong for SKT. They should have never started this dragon. They should not be being active. All they have to do is get to 20 minutes and outscale. That's all they have to do. Key power spikes. Score fucked that up. Score must have not had... No, he had Smite. Wait, hold on. Oh, no, his Smite was still on cooldown. Oh, that's a fucking shame. Yeah, alright. They have the Corki package. Tristana has Trinity Force. What are they doing with this Corki package? That's what I'm confused about. They Corki package mid lane. Okay, full engage on the pawn. All right. Okay. So let's figure out how this happened, because pawn obviously made the mistake. So right now, you see that Wolf and Faker are moving in on mid lane, and they are in a blue ward. Actually, we might get a replay of this since it wasn't on the camera. I'd like to see a replay of this. But actually, no, this part is all you need to see. This part is all you need to see. Pawn is fully aware that Rakan and Gragas are right here. And yet, he chooses to engage onto Faker, who he knows he cannot solo kill. Why can't he solo kill Faker? Faker as Hex Drinker. That's just the fact. And Faker has Phage too, which gives him health. And he just disrespects the fact that Blank and Wolf were prepared to move into the mid lane, and disrespects the fact that they were going to full engage onto him. That was silly by Pawn. Like, beyond I have no idea why he would want to do that. Okay, so Smeb goes ahead and he starts Rift Herald. Antara is going to be taking out a pink word. I don't know if he's going to... Yeah, no, Antara doesn't smell it. He doesn't sniff it out. Because Elise is mid lane, so they're probably assuming that they're not there. But oh no, Blank knows. Blank figured it out. He knows where Jarvan is. Okay, so you see the teleport coming out from LeBlanc. And Elise is actually going to smite it away. But Elise looks like she's going to be killed here. Yep, the kill is going to go right over to Blank. Pawn's going to get the ethereal chains onto Wolf. Smeb's going to ult into the backline, but he doesn't have any more mana. Gets lots of damage onto Wolf, but Wolf's not going to go down either. So this was interesting. So let's go back to the beginning. So there are no wards on... Oh, wait. No, there's a ward right here. There was a ward the whole time! There was a ward the whole time. No. Okay. That's fine. So there was a ward the whole time, and Antara is just... Okay. So this was strategic. SKT is waiting for this to get low because they're waiting for Gragas to get there. Because Gragas had to walk from fairly far away. Because if you look at when they started the Rift Herald, Gragas was giving Corki blue buff. So Gragas has to path all the way around towards the blue. And then also, another benefit that SKT gets is that Antara, during this time period, is able to manage the top wave and push in top. So that the top wave is going to hit the tower. So if something goes wrong for KT, they'll also lose all that experience in gold. So Blank actually jumps in and smites early. So that was definitely a mistake by Blank. He smited early. And Elise was able to smite right after. And Corki is blue buff, but he's just sitting on the sideline. Blank and Maokai are able to take out the Elise, and Smeb's in the back line. He doesn't have any mana. He tries to do what he can, but he's not able to do much. And now that Corki has blue buff, he's actually able to return to mid lane. There's no problem. And I wouldn't be surprised if both Gragas and Maokai here move straight to top lane. Because moving to top lane and focusing on that first blood tower might be a good idea. But instead, actually, Blank is going to steal blue. So this is really good, because they want to deny the blue buff from LeBlanc, who can use it very effectively. And Maokai is going to go ahead and deal with the top wave himself. That tower is getting low, but remember, his top tower is low too. Blank's going to be counter jungling a little bit more. And Maokai pushes in the wave, pushes in the minions, and they're not going to go for this tower here. I would not be surprised if Antara, while walking back to lane, chose to teleport back to the wave. If these guys manage to get to this tower. Yeah, even the casters are like, oh, I wonder how low that tower is. Because that first blood tower is still on the table. It's 18 minutes. We just saw LeBlanc disappear into the top lane. Oh, there's that Rift Herald. Yeah, it would have been really interesting if Maokai and Gragas focused this tower for first blood tower. I do not know if they would have gotten it before Elise got there, but they definitely would have gotten it before Jarvan got there. Because let's go back. Look at how low this tower is. So they both move on to it right now. Oh, I apologize. And they have a full minion wave. Is that a cannon wave? God damn it, I can't see it. We saw Corki in mid, right? That's a normal wave. I don't know if this is a cannon wave, because if this is a cannon wave, then I think they could have pushed this tower. If it's not a cannon wave, then maybe not. It's just that I'm just unable to see that with this video, so I apologize. But Corki's gonna finish Triforce. Woo! Corki's got Triforce. That's a huge power spike. Maokai has Righteous Glory. What else do we have? Ooh, Elise has Haunting Guys. That's a huge power spike. Because that's lots of damage. Sivir has Essence Reaver. That is pretty good. I mean, I don't really like Essence Reaver build, but well, the thing is, I don't like Essence Reaver build purely because of how it's used. But I guess in a 5v5 like highest level competitive scene, if you're really just gonna wait for the late game anyway, there's no reason for you to just build Essence Reaver first, and because it's gonna help you farm it out. You're just gonna farm, push, and you're gonna continue to regain all of your mana back. So you never really have to leave lane either, so it's nice, and it still gives crit chance too. So you still have dueling potential. We have Sightstone on both supports. Gragas has some extra armor, and he has lots of magic resist with that Spectre's Cowl. Smeb's going to go ahead and steal away Race. The gold lead is actually perfectly even, and let's figure out why. Why is the gold lead even right now, even though they got First Blood Tower? Well, there's a 17 CS lead in the top lane. There's a little bit of jungle lead in terms of Elise, but there's 20 minions for Corki. Huh. You know, that's actually really interesting. I think it has to do with how many... 4, 2, 6, 9, 12. Huh. That's really interesting. Oh, you know where it is? You know what it is? I know what it is. It's Amulet's coin. It's that fucking item. That item's bullshit. It gives way too much gold. Antara does not give a fuck anymore. He's dealing with Jarvan, and he's in a fight with Jarvan. Ooh, Bang engages onto score. Lots of damage coming out. I wonder if there's some crits there that maybe shouldn't have been crits. Gonna keep on jumping over. So this is really good. So let's figure out what's happening and why. So everybody has their ults. Everybody's stand up. And why they want to fight and why they want to go for Dragon is because Corki hit Trinity Force. And so they hit key power spikes that they're looking for. And how they go for Dragon is they say, if Jarvan's in the fight, we lose. But if he's not in the fight, we win. And Jarvan can never teleport because Maokai's Q is on such a short cooldown that his Q will never be on a cooldown for longer, or with his W as well. Like Smeb can't teleport. That's what I'm trying to say. I can't say it eloquently enough. But Antara is like, I don't give a fuck. We're taking Dragon, and if you're there, we can't take Dragon. Because look at why. Why would Jarvan make such a difference at this Dragon fight? Because if Jarvan's at the Dragon fight, he would actually be able to pretty much one-shot Tristana with these items. He does a very, very, very large amount of damage, and it's a lot of it's AoE damage as well. So it's even more potent. So when Jarvan's not there and Corki is Trinity Force, you see the engage with Rakan and Tristana onto Score, and Score gets immediately blown up. You saw the explosive cast was thrown, but it was thrown a little to the wayside, a little bit far away. And now they have Sivir, but Sivir's not too good at team fighting until she has about 4 items. That's when she gets really good. And she doesn't have Infinity Edge, and Tristana does have Infinity Edge. So you know Tristana will always have more damage. And you know that Corki is DPS, whereas LeBlanc is more burst. But what's interesting about Corki is that he offers both DPS and burst. burst. And he also offers mixed damage. So he offers a lot more than LeBlanc can offer right now, because LeBlanc just is not fed enough if you look at her items. She just has one item. She's not fed enough to, like, one-hit Tristana, right? If she was fed enough to one-hit Tristana, and Tristana could be removed from the fight, then it would be a little bit differently. So SKT is able to engage the fight, get the jungler, burn an extra flash, and I guess they're going to converge back onto the dragon here. And this fight that started in top lane is still going on, by the way. That's pretty funny. Antara actually pops the ultimate so that he's not able to be chased. Catches out Pawn. So SKT move back onto the dragon. Tristana is going to return to the bottom lane. And I wouldn't be surprised if everybody on SKT moved to the bottom lane. No. See, SKT need to start getting towers. But I think that they understand that they don't need to rush the game. Because now that they know that they can win fights, fights that under special conditions. Now remember, that fight was under very special conditions where Jarvan had already been to the lane, so Maokai was able to prevent him from TPing. So that's a special 4v4 fight. But they are able to force fights, and if they're able to force fights, then that means they're able to force a siege too, and they can force a siege wherever Sivir is not. So really what they're waiting on right now is probably, oh, everybody's holding gold. Tristana's probably going to get a Zeal. Corki's probably going to get a Zeal. Greg is probably going to get more armor, or maybe he's going to get Knight's Vow, or start building towards Knight's Vow. And you're going to have Maokai with Sunfire Cape soon. They have no need to rush. They're not in any mood to rush. Pawn engaging on a Faker, but Pawn just does not have the damage right now. Faker has no mana, so eventually Pawn could kill him, but Pawn knows that Faker will never let that happen. Bang, getting a lot of pressure on the bottom tower. Mata actually not staying, and they go ahead and they get their first tower of the game. I think it's their first free tower of the series. No. Maybe. I apologize. So I already talked about what SKT could do. But what does, now that KT hasn't really reached their win condition, what does KT need to do to win? Well, they could look for, really they have to look for picks. And the picks, god damn it. The picks revolve around Elise Cocoon, followed by Pawn Ethereal Chain, LeBlanc Ethereal Chain, and Jarvan EQR. And even Thresh Q. And if they can look for picks and they can get picks, then they can get back into the game. But Sivir's so far away from being at the point in which she's useful, they either need to just stall the game as long as possible, which is going to be difficult, but they do have anti-siege, or they need to look for picks and deny vision, get lots of pink wards, and you can see that they do. I mean, look, they have 4 pink wards on the map right now. They have one here, one here, one here, and one here, and they have lots of other vision too. But they need to turn this vision into gold somehow by denying vision, probably denying some vision aggressively in the enemy jungle, because I know that. Whoa. I apologize. That was my mouse That was one of my mouse buttons. Where were we? Oh, we are way past this point. There's the dragon. Okay. We were about here. Yeah, everybody's buying items. Yeah, we were about here. And Corki opted not to buy a Zeal. He bought a BF sword. Very interesting. But I mean, okay. All right, so what do they need to do? Well, the thing is, because they have such high aggressive characters, high aggression characters, they actually need to play more high risk. And they're actually forced to do this because in the early game, generally the Elise ganks and Jarvan maybe roams or LeBlanc roams would not be high risk. They'd be low risk. But because it's no longer the early game, they can no longer those plays are no longer low risk. So they need to start putting aggressive vision in the enemy jungle, denying vision, probably they have 2 sweepers. They could probably use a 3rd sweeper. And they're holding a lot of pink wards, so I know that they're doing that right. Because they just need to catch out Corki, Tristana, and Rakan. Because Gragas is like unkillable, and I can tell you that Maokai is even harder to kill. So they need to focus around these 3, and they need to figure out how they're going to do it. Okay, Wolf engages on the Smeb in the top lane. Smeb flashes. What was that? What was that quirky ult? I don't think it really matters. So this is what KT actually want to be doing. So you see how they actually saw that Corki was alone in the bottom lane because SKT set up a 1-3-1, or well, in this case, it's a 3-1-1. You have Maokai in the mid, and you have Corki in the bot, which is a little weird. Normally you'd send Corki mid because it's a shorter lane and because it's safer, and you'd send Maokai bot because it's harder to tower dive the Maokai. And these guys can rotate to Corki a lot quicker than they could if Corki's in bot. So this is odd to me. So this lane setup by SKT is probably wrong. I would say Corki was supposed to be mid and Maokai was supposed to be bot. But because they're making this mistake, KT realizes this and they're going to go for a tower dive on Corki. Faker realizes that he's going to be tower dive, so he engages on the pawn, gets the flash away. Oh, lots of going down. Oh, that's on pawn's going to get the kill. And he's going to get out with a scratch of hell. Anyway, top tower is going to go down, though. And Smeb actually returned to lane. Or I don't even know if he ever recalled, but he's going to engage on the Bang. He doesn't have that much damage anymore, and Bang has a lot of DPS. He's going to... Blank just runs over the wall here. He's so low. Bang's W comes back up, so he's able to jump on over and secure the kill with an auto. So now that SKT have both the outer towers and the side lanes, KT's base looks like this, and SKT's base is actually parallel like this. So the first tower that SKT has to take, and why I'm saying SKT in this sense, is because they have the tempo, whereas if KT had the tempo, they would be going for the mid lane tower, but SKT have the tempo, so they're going for the mid lane tower. And they even got the blue buff steal. So they denied blue buff from LeBlanc, and they're probably going to pass over the blue buff to Corki, and they're going to set up a siege in the mid lane. They're going to leave Maokai in the bottom lane. Maokai is going to push out bottom lane, and they're going to send for a mid. Tried to get a sneaky engage onto Sivir there, but Lantern pulls Sivir right out. That was weird. So Bang now has static shift completed, so he is definitely full on ready to fight with this Tristana. Sivir's trying to build Infinity Edge. Alright, so like let's look at Sivir's build path right now because it's really interesting. So Sivir has the Infinity Edge items, the damage items, so she has 65 AD right now. She's probably going to end up finishing a Zeal before she finishes Infinity Edge, just because it's more potent, because then she's going to have 40% crit chance, and then when she finishes Infinity Edge, she'll have 60%, and then that gives her a good rotation into static. I'm getting messages. Oh my god, I missed something. What did I miss? Okay, so SKTs, they see that red buff is about to spawn, so they're gonna send 4 people for this red buff. And they didn't get the red buff, but they have the Rakan Flash Engage. Bang moves over from the upper side, and Faker moves over from the bottom. Because look at this vector. This is the vector of damage that SKT has. Because here's, well, it's not the vector, it's the resultant vector. Because here's the vector from Corki, and here's the vector from Bang, and then the resultant vector is this way, and that way is the only way out that KT has. So that's 2 kills for SKT. They had already secured mid lane tower, so they're going to go ahead and push mid lane again. They're probably just going to have 5 people sit in mid lane. No, SKT wants Baron. This is a more of a... oh, well, you know what? This isn't that risky. Because Elise is dead, so there's no reason for them to not Baron, because they have double AD. They actually have high DPS, and a high enough DPS for the Baron. So no, that's the correct call. I was wrong. I didn't see who died. I just saw that they got blown up. So SKT can now set up a 1-3-1, which is really funny because it's kind of backwards, because originally it was, oh, KT has the 1-3-1 comp. They want to get Baron, they want to win the game with the 1-3-1, but now SKT is the 1-3-1 comp. So Maokai actually gets engaged on by 5 people, but the rest of SKT is on the way. Jarvan makes the engage, but Jarvan gets blown up immediately. There's the explosive cast. Spawn's going to be trying to run away, but he cannot get away fast enough. And this is going to be leading into a 5-man push into the bottom lane. So you're probably going to see SKT get both turrets and the inhibitor here. And if KT makes any mistakes, SKT's going to just finish the game. And actually, I didn't check the gold lead after Baron, but this is beyond over. There's nothing else to see here. They move mid lane, they get mid lane, they get mid lane inhibitor, they fight, and they end. Yep, okay. So 2-1. Interesting game 3. I loved SKT's team comp. I really did. And I think that if they draft more like that with the damage mid, the damage and Bang on Tristana, or even, I mean, they could even run Caitlyn as long as they have a damage mid laner too. Yeah, I don't know, but I like the double frontline engage support, and the double backline. That is, I really think that's the strongest in the current meta. It does have counters, and it does have a response, but because I mean assassins will be good into that. But it's very interesting. Okay, so that's game 3. 2 more to go. Thanks for watching.